Good evening. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ian Blackburn. It's 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. That means it's time to zoom into wine. Every Wednesday, we get together with some great folks from all across the land, drink some amazing wines, and learn a few things about the wine world. I want to thank you for joining me on this particular occasion. Got some folks still coming on board, so I'll keep clicking, clicking, clicking. Today, we've got a really fun show. Uh, Dedicated. Just want to make sure my volume's down there. We got this one's dedicated to the big Italian red wine show. I pulled together a really great lineup of wines. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Let's get started with our first wine. And we're going to go to a producer that we've featured relatively recently when we had a white wine, Italian white show just about a month ago. We tasted a white from these guys, and this is actually the wine that introduced me to that brand, Tenuta San Francisco. It's a real exciting little wine find that a friend of mine is importing. Let's see if I can get the Italian chops moving here. And here's how we pronounce this wine.
San Francesco Eis Tintore Prefilloxera GT Campania, Italy 2018.
Right, I hope that that all worked for you. Um, oh, it's not the button I wanted to say. I wanted slideshow. There we go. So this producer came into my life about a year ago, and we put it on the website. I really liked the wine, um, and immediately started to see it kind of disappear. And frankly, I was quite surprised at the velocity that we were seeing. But the brand does have a nice little reputation. It's being found in some great Italian restaurants, and people go out for dinner. They get recommended this wine. It's a very fair price, and they go out looking for it, and it's not in a lot of homes. So, um, this is really absolutely something I'm looking for out there. Something fun to introduce you to. I hope this is your first time trying the wine with me tonight, but if not, maybe it's why you're here because this is just a really great little find. And we're down in the southern part of Italy where there is a great amount of value. We're going to see another wine down here around Campania, just south of the volcano. Um, this is a really, large production area, not a lot of high tech jobs down in this area, a lot of farming community. And this region has a hard time grabbing a lot of price point and making a lot of noise. There are a couple of famous grape varieties, but this one isn't one of them. This is just a little teeny grape variety made by a small family producer, and they only own 16 hectares, which is around 30 to 40 acres of vineyards. That's enough to make enough wine to be noticed and to have a nice little business. And apparently, people are going there and tasting the wine and really enjoying it. And the importer that brings it in is selling it through because it's not always available to us. So that's all good. But here we've got some pretty steep slopes, a lot of ocean influence, and some really interesting soils, a lot of volcanic material, and it kind of gets passed along through these vines. These are older vines, pre-phylloxera, and they've been around for a while. Um, and the nose of this wine, as we're going to throw it in the glass here in a second, you're going to smell some of that earth and some from the variety, a little bit of graphite. So a little ash, a little graphite, and some black fruits. And I really think that the mark tonight on all the wines are going to be how insane the tail is of acidity, the tannins, the structure. Italian wines are iconic for this, and so this wine won't let you down. The grape variety, Tintore, also Tintore di Tremonti. It is dark skinned and mostly found around Campania. So not a lot of it, a pretty small planting, pretty small growing area, and not a lot of references. But James Suckling really liked the wine when he tasted it in 2017. He gave it 94 points and really pulled from some of those classic notes there, the black fruits, spicy charcuterie, wet stones, some floral character. And this is just a really special wine to this very nice family. I don't know if you were on that Zoom with me that night, but this producer was quite animated and had a lovely daughter joining him, and she was very animated. And so this is to them. Thank you for making such beautiful wine. Tenuta San Francisco. Yes. And I just love how dark that is in the glass. The nose is just really pulls you in. It's got wonderful balance and the intensities there. That spicy, rocky, terroir-driven thing just sends you right to Italy as soon as you smell it. Dried meats, salumi, charcuterie. The mouth is just etched with some wonderful texture. It's not too rough. It has a wonderful like I mean it really uh, awakes your palate. You can feel that long spine of acidity just continuing to drill down, and that's going to happen all night long. This is what happens with Italian wines, and they have this very particular tension in a blind tasting. This is what we're going to be noticing. The one thing it gets hard, it's easy to detect, I think, an Italian wine, but it gets really hard in a blind tasting to decide, is that Chianti? Is that Brunello? Is that Barolo? Is that Tintare? Where is that grape variety? Because they all have similar characteristics in that way, that Italian sameness. But if you're really passionate about Italian wines, I'm sure you can start to extrapolate a few things. Here in the South, a little bit warmer, a little bit more richness, just, little small ticks on the dial that really kind of pump this wine up and make it really pretty special. That nose is gorgeous too. What a beautiful zone. All hillsides, very steep vineyards. Sometimes they're going to trellis. Sometimes some of these vines you can see are are done in kind of an old school where they literally grow the fruit up on top, let it hang down almost pergola style, um, creating some shade. This is about $57, and I think it's like one of the more interesting wines out there right now. I would take this out to dinner at a wonderful restaurant in Los Angeles with great restaurant like Bestia. They might have this wine. It's never a good idea to take a wine like this out to a restaurant that has it already. It's a no-no. But you can call up in advance and find out if they've got it and see that that's going to be okay for you to bring this in there. I got a couple of chats. I'm going to encourage you to use the chat box. Ciao, Lisa. I'm glad you could celebrate your Giants. We all hope the Giants do better. My Dodgers are absolutely horrific still. I'm still really down and depressed about it, to be honest. My catcher got hurt today. Will Smith got hit by a ball on his left hand. He's out of the game. I just think it's The momentum is just really going in the wrong direction. Bad. So we'll stop talking about that. We're going to focus on wine and let's go. I hope you enjoyed that first one. Thumbs up from you guys. Did you like that? Beautiful. Yeah, I could just smell that wine. It's just so savory and it's got all that great Italian kind of masculine character. It's got muscle and power, but there's also something so pretty about this wine too. I think it maybe leans on the memory of his daughter, and she was just such a little bombshell on our Zoom. Just was really fun to meet them. I hope to see them in Italy someday. We'll go just around the corner in Campania to our second wine. This represents a grape variety called Tarazi, and these are famous for really needing some time. We're able to drink the 18, which is a fairly current vintage. Probably when I go back to buy more from this producer, it's in the 19 or the 20. But this is a really, really nice little find, a good little value from Campania. And in and around Naples, you're going to find the wines like this. And also, Mount Vesuvius, very influenced some of these wines. They are kind of the wines of the volcano. 6 hectares of vine, a little bit of altitude. What's that? Put that at maybe 1,500 to 1,800 feet. So pretty good altitude there. The tuffo soil, that's that volcanic ash, makes it special and distinctive. Here's a look at that view. Wow, look at that. That's a pretty nice little spot there to look out across the vista and see just how high up we are. And you can see the color of the soils as well. Tufa, ash, and very, very much, this is the type of soil that a lot of grape growers love to find. Not incredibly abundant in growth. It makes the vines work a little harder, and they talk about the vigor of soils. And so, if you're growing table grapes for eating, you want high vigor soils, probably low on the valley floor where there's a lot of richness, a lot of nutrients. These hillsides, they have very little soil, very little nutrients, very little water. So those vines have to work really hard and focus on the quality of the fruit. And they're not just growing vine, they're growing fruit because they can't put too much energy into the vine. So it's a really nice balanced place, and you can grow some pretty massive character when you're talking about a hillside with some extremes like that, and you get some really interesting chiseled notes. Right, a spittoon. Here we go. I'm going to taste this second wine. I'm going to do Aglianico. Uh, when I started my journey in wine, this was like a grape that I was turned on to pretty early on and was really kind of taught that this was like something special that you should lay down and hold for a long time. I've since found quite a few that, don't necessarily require the aging element, but in my own personal cellar, I have some 15 and 20-year-old Aglianicos. Um, Here's the look at the grape variety. Very dark skinned, very thick dark skins. Great aging potential, high acidity, loves the sun, loves the heat, and really gets some very interesting etched character. Lots of tannin. Boy, tannin. So here's another look from the hillside. What's amazing about this wine is just how affordable it is. Um, and you look at this wine, also very, very dark, but a little bit more abundant. There's a lot of this grape variety, and not quite as dear as the last. The nose is much more volcanic in smell. That earth element is really much more um, present in the nose here. I also smell a lot more ripeness. Yeah, these wines are just made like battle axes, just bold power. This thing's got armor on it. I mean, it is really muscular. Um, but man, that's a lot of wine for $22. And that's why we picked this one to kind of show it off. Now with a little bit of age, it's fun to drink, fun to introduce it. Just some really wonderful texture here. I think people would enjoy it. It's got a charm to it as well. What else do I smell in the nose? I get just a kiss of balsamic, but wow, that rockiness is right there. Can really smell that ash, that tufo. You can also smell like you're about to put some rocks in your mouth. That's what it kind of smells like. It's power. Maybe the graphite, but man, you might say this is the smell of like wrought iron. I mean, it's got some really like metallic, but not in a way where it's like gonna make your tongue uncomfortable or anything like that. It's not metallic like it was in a can. It's like this like I said, armor. It just kind of got that on the threshold. Maybe some leather. It's chewy, it's intense, and I think it's quite enjoyable. A really big red, and you can pretty much guarantee that anytime you're gonna order a Tarazi, it is a big bold wine. And honestly, I started down telling you I have bottles in my cellar that are like 15, 20 years old now. And when I bought them, they said, "Oh, they're going to get really pretty over time, put them in." No, they're still like just like this. I don't care if it's 7 years old or 17 years old. It doesn't move. It's just powerful, muscular, chewy, and a lot of wine. Now, last year, I got to take a group to Sicily. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I had to come back on the last day of the trip, like early. I mean, I got in the car at like 2 in the morning to get to the airport so you can catch that oh so convenient 6 a.m. flight, the only one they do to leave Sicily. Fly from Sicily to Rome, not a problem. But I had to be back in LA in time for one of my largest events of the year is the Milken Wealth Conference in Beverly Hills. I do a big show with them, and my group was finishing on Friday, and the Wealth Conference was on Saturday. So I left Thursday night, got on a plane Friday morning, and flew back in time to be here for the Wealth Conference. And the last day, was like the ultimate appointment with Ariana Occupanti. She was there. And my brother came with me on the trip to host and finish the trip for me, but I didn't get to go to Occupanti. So, of course, he rubbed it in so good, telling me how awesome this visit was and how everybody loved the wines, everybody loved her. And so I'm destined to go back and give it another swing and get to go see her. But I because I wasn't there, I sent her a note and I said, everyone's raving about how great your wines are. I know you don't have a lot of wine to sell, but if you could let your importer know that anything that becomes available, I'd love to carry it and present it to the customers that were there, etc. And we started off on a really good foot there. And everything I bring in from her blows out of the website. Just smokes. So this is not an unknown story anymore. Stanley Tucci did a show on Italy and spent like an entire episode with her. And so her wines are highly desirable, and people are pecking them off my website from all over the place. I'm shipping these wines to Texas, Florida, New York, Chicago. Sicily is an amazing place, as is almost all of Italy. But Sicily is really fun because it is an island. It has a lot of personality. It has a very active volcano that will be the perfect excuse for you spending an extra week in Sicily whenever you're there, because it's probably going to go off and you can't fly in or out when it's doing that. So it can shut down all airports in Europe when it blows really hard. And if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of volcanic activity all around the world right now, and Etna's one of them. It's going. So if you want a really good excuse to call out sick from work for a couple of weeks, just take a short vacation to Etna and don't come back. Just go and say, that's it. I'm done. All right. So there's different wines throughout Sicily. It's very rich. In fact, I'm going to go back and just talk about, the number of wines that um, are grown on this island are incredible. I could spend an entire day just talking about the region of Marsala, which everybody thinks is cooking wine, and that's because they did cook, or they do cook with a lot of Marsala wines, but to keep the cooks from drinking it, they added salt to your cooking wine, to the Marsala cooking wine. If you buy it in the cooking department of a store and it says cooking wine on there, there probably is some salt in the wine. That in somebody probably grabbed a bottle of Marsala cooking wine, poured it in a glass, and said, "Oh, yuck, doesn't taste good." Well, Marsala is gorgeous, beautiful, and amazing, and making a comeback, but not as a cooking wine, as a drinking wine. And then you can kick all the way over here to Etna, and you've got all these volcanic wines, the whites and the reds, the Caricante, the the red wines that are made from crazy indigenous grape varieties. These things smell and taste and feel almost like Nebbiolo from of the mountain. And so they're really different. And then you've got wines over in Noto and Victoria, like what we're going to taste right here. Nero de Avola is a great variety. We also went into the center of Sicily and stayed at a castle. It was ridiculous. And they grow everything from Cabernet to Merlot to Chardonnay on this island. I mean, anything, this island grows stuff. That's what they do. There's not a lot of population. There's huge crops that come off of this island. So Ariana got started here in 2004, and her first vintage was 2006. So we're not talking about ancient families, 10 generations or anything like that. But um, she definitely came with a plan, and she operates very well on that plan. The one thing about Sicily also is the high respect for the ethos, the organics, the biodynamics, and the sustainability and the regenerativeness, because you're living on a volcano. So there's this, sense of like, hey, let's not tread too heavily. Let's take good care of this place. And everyone that I've met has very high ethos when it comes to grape growing. Don't see a lot of herbicides or pesticides, although sure, back 40, 50, 60, 100 years ago, they were, probably doing everything that modern viticulture was allowed to do, and it's come full circle. We're very much on the, making things the way we used to over 100 years ago. Take a look at these vines, just beautiful, beautiful. This single um, cane system, vertical training. This is very popular all over the world. Places like in Germany does this on the in the Alps, and it's done all over Mount Etna. They have wood stakes just growing the single vine around the wood stake, and that's about protecting it from shadows and just a really good training system for kind of like a bush vine. The grape variety that we're gonna see in this one is Frappato and Nero d'Avola. It's a blend, and she makes a Nero d'Avola, and she also makes a Frappato. I currently have only bottles of the Frappato on the website. This particular wine is kind of her ambassador wine, and a little bit more easily found than all the others. Frappato as a grape variety is very famous to Sicily. Um, in fact, the description of Frappato even has Ariana Accopanti's name on it. So that's a pretty high thing when Chances Robinson or one of the textbooks decides to actually use a particular producer as an example. Um, Frappato has a number of different ways that it's presented. I've even seen sparkling red Frappato as a fun way to present it. Nero d'Avola is an active and often found blending partner for Frappato. Frappato to me, in a lot of instances, is a really kind of crazily rich, powerful, dark, almost like not sweet with high in sugar, but a lot of fruit intensity, a lot of sunshine shining through, and it doesn't actually have the biggest acid characteristic. So I think it's fun, it's juicy, it's kind of jammy, and they use the Nero d'Avola to give the wine some structure. And so that's what we are looking at here is a really fun blend. And making this wine really, and tasting this wine too, kind of reminds me of, my days making Zinfandel. This is kind of what we work with, with Zinfandel and Petit Syrah, finding a way to blend it together where 1 plus 1 equals 2, or maybe sometimes 3, by really adding another dimension to the wine. The wine's just got this wonderful, seductive, um, there's the note on the nose. It's kind of like salt air, plum skin, um, chocolate, uh, like chocolate, like really dark chocolate. And I would use this in a fun chocolate tasting to really show off something. Cherry skins. I really have my wines at a nice temperature. I like this at a cooler temperature. This is as opposed to the first two wines, which were incredibly like those first two wines both had like six-pack abs, and this one's got like a little bit of a belly. It's a little more voluptuous, kind of lovable, huggable, and gives you a lot to play with and enjoy. Juiciness. Um, but it's also big enough to, have it's got a good amount of volume here. It's really well balanced, nice length, uh, fun and fleshy. Here's Venuus's 91 point score. Pretty and perfumed with a blend of crushed roses and violets. Okay, let's see if I can go there. Oh, absolutely. There's a whole floral spectrum that I did not pay enough attention to. And I, I really think that roses comment is particularly key for me today. It does have that kind of rose petal character. White smoke and wet stones. That's fun. Um, Probably very reminiscent of the volcanic activity, etc. Washes across the palate with a liquid floral concentration and tart wild berry fruits, all guided by a core of brisk acidity. And I think that there is always going to be some acidity in the Italian wine spectrum here. This has just enough to not totally dominate everything else that's going on here. It's really nice, like a nice active ingredient. It's not a one note wine that's just banging with acidity and power. So it really kind of comes in at just the right time as you're tasting it and with just the right amount of intensity. I like that blood orange note. I'm really smelling that now. And a lot of red wines feature that. It is something that if you look for it, you can really find it. And you can even think of like if you had an orange peel and like a microplane and you were kind of like shaving that, you can even smell that kind of orange peel. This wine is definitely sun drenched. Um, and by the way, lots of orange crops in Sicily as well. So, you're gonna have just an amazing plethora of different smells from the sunshine, the air, the soils. This is just spectacular growing conditions. Every spot that you're at on the island pretty much has, where the ocean is. Let's just put it that way. And here's what's particularly nice about this wine. I just described something that's pretty fun and got some pretty noble um, points to it. This isn't a large production, and this carries a really nice price. 30 bucks for what is one of the more popular producers on the island. When I say popular, I don't mean mass produced. This is pretty hard to get. And I can get a good amount of this wine, but it's not enough to put it in grocery stores, and it's not even enough to put it in a lot of Italian restaurants, to be honest. So it's just a special little find. I hope you enjoyed it. I think we have a few bottles of 23, and the 24 might be in, or we have 22 and some 23. But I get only like 12 to 24 bottles a year. So at no point in time do I have a lot of it. Let's just see what the computer says here. Yeah, there's only four in stock from 23. But let me see if I go up here and I take the name of the wine and I put it into our search bar and show you what else we have. We have the white equivalent of that, the Bianco, it's called. Well, we have that in 23 and 24. And then we have this one, which is a 23. And I guess I'm probably still able to get some more 23 SP 68. And then just a few bottles of the Frappato, which is very popular. And all of our packaging is really beautiful. There's the Frappato. It does sell for a little more of a premium, but this wine that we're tasting today is uh, is a really strong value proposition. I don't see any comments in the chat. If anybody has anything you want me to answer or talk about, you're also welcome to come on. This is your Zoom. We always encourage you guys to make this, your time. You're not just watching, you're tasting with me. And I'd love to hear your feedback, any comments, good, bad, whatever. This is for you. Next week, we're going to be tasting some really cool wines from all over the world. I do a Rhone event very soon on the Rhone Valley of France, but these are Rhone wines that are next week that are going to be made from all over the world. We've got wines from Washington, Australia, Spain, Paso Robles, Santa Barbara, and Greece. And they're all in the Rhone category. If you'll look at the website, you'll see it's about 44 bucks to taste a really top flight. Henschke is royalty in Australia. Alto Moncayo is royalty in Spanish Garnacha, made by a 100-point winemaker. We got Helen Keplinger's 95-point Sumo next week. Camins to Dreams, we're tasting from my library, the 18 vintage. One of the most beautiful wineries I've ever been to in my life was in Greece. It's called the Alpha Estate. This wine's going to be a favorite and really cool because it's grown at altitude from Greece, and it's Syrah and Zeno Marvro, which is really kind of fun. And then a guy who I'm just falling in love with all of his wines from Washington and Oregon. Uh, we've got the Force Majeure 18, also from my library. Just got a couple more years on it now, but this is Red Mountain, and these wines are just so delicious. So I hope you guys will join me next week for our Rhone showcase. Also, we've got all the other Zooms scheduled to the end of the year and up and available. Moving into wine number 4. Montepulciano di Abruzzo. I carry a number of different price points in this category. I'm a huge fan of the ultimate expression of Montepulciano di Abruzzo is from Amidio Pepe. But Amidio Pepe is like, if Gaia represents Piedmont, Amidio Pepe represents Montepulciano in Abruzzo. Um, this is on the east coast of Italy. It is a special spot. Let me just show you the map. You can see on the right there the map of Italy. I actually drove there one year from Tuscany. I was staying with a friend in Tuscany and got in my car, no hurry, to a beautiful drive across the mountains that kind of are right down the spine, the middle of Italy. And I got into, and this is like early 2000s, and really there it was the beginning of GPS. And I remember that morning, and I got in the car, I entered the address onto the GPS, and it found it. I probably wasn't wise enough to question, how did it find that address so easily? And I drove like 8 hours drive. I mean, we're talking, sometimes behind donkeys and different animals crossing the road and up and down through mountainous roads. We're not talking about a highway road. So I drove all the way from Tuscany to Abruzzo, and I was supposed to be there for dinner at 8 o'clock at night, and it was supposed to take me about 8 hours, and I pull up about 7 o'clock, a little bit early, and I call my guy. I'm like, "Hey, man, says I'm here, but I don't see any civilization here at all." And he's like, "Oh no." He's like, "You went to the wrong part of Abruzzo. I'm 3 hours away." Same address, same everything, same name as street. He's like, "Yeah, people do that." I'm like, "Oh no." So, in Italy, I drove 3 more hours. I got to his house at 10 o'clock and he was just sitting down for dinner. So it was good. It was good. Actually, I think the whole family was about ready to pass out, but they all stayed up for me. So anyway, we're in Abruzzo, and the wine's called Montepulciano, but it it is not made from the Montepulciano variety. It is the name of the wine, Montepulciano. And here, the winemaker Nicola Santoriere is in charge, and we've got 28 hectares of vine, so about 50 plus acres, maybe two and a half, 2.3. That might be 70 acres, yeah. And this goes back to the 1700s. Of course, there were a lot of things that kind of interfered with the growth of commerce, and really World War II was just a brutal a brutal financial result for areas like this. All of the men in the south and the east of Italy were pulled into the war, and so many families were just decimated. And then the next generation came along and didn't want to stay in Italy, so quite a bit of brain drain. And so they have some of these families have these really old businesses, and their kids don't want anything to do with them. There are buildings that you can go to Italy and buy for like $1, if you'll agree to spend a lot to fix them up. It is a challenging combination of friction points, but here they have this wonderful wine industry, but really, old families making do with what they've got to work with, and they have this amazing land, amazing weather, and they can grow just about everything. And they've used very old school tactics again, kind of that pergola high, growing it up high, creating the shade, letting the fruit hang down underneath the leaves. But people, used to be pretty small, so they could just reach up and grab the fruit. Today, I'm 6'1", almost 6'2", and you get a backache crawling under all this stuff all day long. But it is gorgeous to look at and very uh, optimal for this variety and in this part of the world to grow it on this pergola system. And even parts of the new growing regiments the new world wine growers are starting to reconsider pergola, because that really does encourage the wind, and it heat rises, so a little bit warmer creates a little bit of a protection if you have things like wind or hail. So there are some benefits to the pergola system. So this is 100% Montepulciano, and I think just said that it's not Montepulciano. I meant in Tuscany, there's wine that's called Rosso di Montepulciano, and that's not made from Montepulciano. That's made from Sangiovese. Here, it is made from Montepulciano. I apologize for stepping on my facts, but this is 100% Montepulciano of Montepulciano di Abruzzo, and that's the only confusing thing about this wine is that that word Montepulciano is used in Tuscany, but that is another wine entirely. So here's the Montepulciano grape variety. Um, this is where it grows. This is what it does. And it's soft in flavors with strong color. Um, they do use it in different places for different things, but mostly grows here in Abruzzo, where it has its namesake wine. There's a lot of complementary white grape varieties that they grow in Abruzzo as well. Trebbiano and Pecorino are two very famous grape varieties that they also grow in this zone. This is a 2012, and the one thing I'm going to tell you about uh, Montepulciano is that these producers have different ideas about how they're going to come to market, and this producer keeps their holds their wine back. And this is their current release, 2012. Just bought it. Just bought it. In fact, when I bought this wine, um, I this was like, how am I gonna have people try this? What can I do? I need people to taste this wine. I can get as much of this as I want. It's delicious. And maybe I should showcase a bunch of really cool bigger reds of Italy that we don't pay enough attention to. And so we started pulling this together. This was the impetus of that. It's just a really special wine, 13 years of old, released in 25. Mm, it's spicy, huh? It's got this almost like a blue fruited tart, and that the nose is very fruit focused. It's got that, great Italian attitude there behind it. Lots of herbs and black olive, and it's soft and tender now. It's got all that character that's kind of shining through that you'd find in a mature wine, but it's still very fresh, very balanced. This is probably the oldest wine that we have decided to use in this Zoom format. I hope you're enjoying it. Because when you're using older wines and you put them into the jar, they're going to decant a little differently and progress a little differently. I will tell you, coming out of the bottle, this thing is really gorgeous and beautiful. And here we're tasting it with a couple of days in the decanter, and it's just so wonderful and so soft and so silky and so um, it's got so much charm to it. And I think that it may may you may even enjoy it a little more coming right out of the bottle. Um, the length on the finish does seem to be a little bit shorter than when I first opened it, but just note that this has been now opened for 2 days. And in the decanter, we filled, if you notice, we filled those decanters very high this time. We wanted no real headspace, and we sent them out. And as you open them up and you pull them out, you can really just smell the exoticness that this thing is taking on. And it's just so much fun to drink this wine with a great meal. Yeah, I saw some notes, someone saying something about lasagna. This all the wines that we just had tonight would be great with lasagna. Um, this I could see this with so many different classic Italian dishes. A little further south, in Puglia, you might have a dish where they throw just almost everything into it. I think it's got a kind of a nasty name. They call it puttanesca, and they just put all the capers and the olives and diced stuff up and put it all in there. And I really think that a wine like this would be really fun with a dish like that. But I could totally see this with like roasted eggplant, um, or an eggplant parmesan, or um, some sort of a beef dish, maybe lamb, something like that would be really delicious with this. This has got a lot of charm, a lot of personality. You can have a lot of fun with the accompaniments. Just keep them in the kind of that Mediterranean set. You don't even have to be Italian. It could be, this would be so much fun with Eastern European food. Um, and I eat a lot of that too, shish kebabs and things like that. This would be a lot of fun. And to be able to buy a wine that's 13 years old for 55 bucks in this kind of condition, I mean, this is like literally the current wine. In my sales history, I represented our next wine at multiple phases of my wine sales career. I used to work for the recently deceased Young's Market Company. Young's Market was purchased about 7 years ago by a big conglomerate out of Florida called RNDC. They paid $7 billion to buy Young's Market Company, and 7 years later, they closed. I can't believe it. It was the biggest, collapse I've ever heard of in my life. But this wine was one that I sold and I came to love. It is a Super Tuscan. Salengo is the name of the wine. Easy to remember, Salengo. Tuscany. It's a 2022, which is pretty young and pretty uh, early for a wine like this. So we'll see how it's doing here in a moment. But a lot of these Super Tuscan wines kind of stem from, um, we've tasted and talked about some Sassicaia wines in the past, being up from Bulgari, the family of uh, a lot of the classic families that grew Chianti, gave offspring a chance to kind of go and make wines in different parts of Tuscany, and some of them moved a little bit further to the west and decided they didn't want to make Chianti. They didn't want to make the same wines that their grandparents made, and they decided to use some more what they call quote unquote modern varieties like Cab and Merlot and Cab Franc. And the Sassicaia, they made a wine called Sassicaia or Tenuta Sanguido. They made Sassicaia, and they used these grape varieties to make a very Bordeaux style wine. And that wine really gave birth to a lot of other Super Tuscans, this being one of them. So the estate has at least 500 years of history. It is magnificent. Look at that thing. Um, it is in Montalcino, Argiano, and they make great Brunello di Montalcino as well. This is another very biodiverse, uh, an area that's very concerned about their biodiversity and their ethos. So lots of organic, sustainable, and uh, kind of self-preservation grape growing practices. larger estates. This is 57 hectares. So now approaching 130, 140 acres. Significant amounts of wine made for significant time in the cellar. Just ridiculous. The view, the pictures, the setting. Cabernet, Petit Verdot, Merlot with a kiss of Sangiovese. Here's the percentages: 50, 25, 25, 94 points. Almost impenetrable. The nose, ripe plums and cherries, thyme and pepper. Now, this is a good one because we've tasted a lot of very classic, old school Italian varieties. And then we talked about how they smell innately Italian. There's just something about them. So now this is our chance to do that with the grape varieties, the modern grape varieties, Cab, Merlot, and smell. And you're still going to get that great Italian scar behind this wine. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is a beast. And when you're growing it in Tuscany and in Montalcino up in the hills, you're going to get even more of that coffee espresso kind of smell. That tannin is on, that's off the Richter scale here. This thing is a big, chewy, beefy wine. And it is definitely the wine that's gonna, they say the more you pay, the longer you should wait to drink it. That's the irony of wine. And everything that they make in Montalcino is really built for significant bottle age. This being no exception. This is $100 bottle, and it is a trophy and really just a monument. Amy, was that your comment for this wine? Good. Yeah, that's pretty heavenly. I agree. Yeah. Wow. This thing hits you in like a, it hits you with a, it's like a first like kisses your cheek and then it slaps you. It's really got so much structure and power that it's just like a tail. It comes around and goes because you got seduced by the nose, but whoa, the tannin is serious. So I hope you enjoy Salengo. Um, we may run out of this wine tonight. I can get more and will. So if you want some and we don't have any when you go to order, um, let me know and I probably can get some more. Another wine that I'm very proud to show off that I can just tell you that this is one of my favorite finds of the year. It won't be in my December tasting where I show off like my favorite wines of the year because I'm showing it off now. And I'm gonna I have 1,200 wines in the store, so there's always something I can not, I haven't shown on a Zoom, and I want to continue to buy stuff. So I'm really forming my ideas right now of what I was going to use in that showcase. But this is Stropa. It is an Amarone di Valpolicella. I don't think you can see it very well, but there is an actual grapevine tied to the bottle. Talk about handwork. Oh my goodness. And I love this wine for several reasons. First, the story of Amarone is like no other. And I'll tell you that in a second. Second, incredible bio ethos here. This is certified biodynamic. It is current vintage 2013. Okay. To make wines like this and then to age them for 12 years to bring them to market, very few producers can afford to do that. Every detail about this bottle, from the wax cap to the tying of the vine to the story of this wine, kind of make this wine one of the best deals on the website if you like Amarone. So let's cover that Amarone story really quick. You go back in history, 1500s, 1600s, the landlords own the land. The people lived on the land and paid for their space to live on that land by working for the landlords. And the landlord made Valpolicella to sell to the world. Okay. That was the crop. Everybody wanted the Valpolicella wine. Valpolicella was the goal. The the people that lived in these vineyards were pretty hand to mouth and poor. And so the landlords got their crop and then let the locals go back into the vineyards and pick the fruit that didn't make the selection. And they brought it into their house and they'd hang the grapes up in the rafters of the house and let them raisinate because they were probably clusters left in the vineyard because they were unevenly ripened. And you wouldn't pick green grapes and you wouldn't pick stuff with raisins and green grapes. So you just left all this undesirable fruit in the vineyard, and so they would age it on the rafters in their ceilings, and then they will let the raisins make the wine, and that's what Amarone is. It's a wine made from the raisins of Valpolicella. The irony and the great thing is that today Valpolicella is a fairly inexpensive bottle of wine. The most expensive wine of this region is the Amarone. And this is what really defines the area. It is very close to Verona, where they have the great wine fair every year. People fly into Vinitaly, which is in Verona, and there's probably 4,000 wineries there. I'm not kidding. You cannot see it all. It's a week. Even if you ran the event and just threw one in your face, you wouldn't taste them all. Um, and so you don't try. You just kind of choose a path wisely. And this area, they make a lot of different wines, lots of different grape varieties, Garganaga, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Glera for Prosecco. This is a really rich area, but this is kind of the treasured wine. And this small family that makes this wine, they do it with a lot of hands-on work. Biodynamics is not easy. It is a hands and feet in the vineyard is how you make biodynamics work. Steep terraces, look how gorgeous that is. Wow. The grape varieties. These are classic Amarone grape varieties. Corvina, Corvione, which is a little less talked about. Obviously, it's got something to do with Corvina. Corvione, it's probably a mutation. Rondinella, that's very classic. Uh, and Molinar and Osale. That makes up the other 10%. These are grape varieties you'll see in this area that are used in production of Amarone. Probably the most important is the Corvina and then Rondinella or Rondinaya. Rondinella, I think is what the locals there call it. Notes of chocolate, fig, leather, espresso, dried fruits. Now, some producers of Amarone make the wine, might take 4 or 5 years to get it into the bottle. They make the wine, they put it in the bottle, and they sell it, and they say, hey, now it's yours. You wait until it's ready to drink. Not here. Here they're going to hold it for you and they're going to sell it, and it can continue to age for decades, but you can enjoy this now. There's nothing, there's no, the word restraint does not exist in this nose. This is full, voluptuous, ripe, probably approximately 16% alcohol. The smell of fig. We're not talking about fresh fig. We're talking about almost dried fig. We've got cocoa powder, chocolate, probably like 60% cacao. Minimal additional sulfur used in the bottling of this wine. It is naturally protective, naturally made, indigenous yeast. 95 points, so critically approved. Hmm. Wow. I didn't know Carlo Venturini looked like that until just now. That is a doppelganger for one of my friends. I'm going to point that out. I know where his ancestors came from. Check out some of the descriptions here. Smolders up from the glass with a beguiling mix of ground ginger, crushed ashen stone. That's a very specific reference that I've never thought to use or even really can tell you what that is. Sugar dusted black cherries, cloves 100%. This floods the palate with an intense wave of ripe medicinal cherry and black chocolate or blackberry, sorry, accentuated by a pretty inner sweetness, yet contrasted by a pop of brisk acidity that adds tension towards the close. The 2013 finishes dramatically long and primarily with youthful, gripping tannins and a potent staining of residual fruits. Cedar and licorice hints slowly fade. So powerful, but so energetic. The 2013 has outstanding cellar potential. $120. Special stuff. Um, it's current vintage. I'm working hard with this importer. I'm really impressed with this wine. I will tell you that there's some very famous Amarones out there. They are all a lot more money than this. They can sell for 3, 4, and $500 a bottle from particular producers. This is just a lot of fun and a beautiful gift too. The packaging is sensational. It's really authentic. It's all so hand done. I think the in person looks better than the package there, but this is wax topped. And again, the grapevine is tied to the top of the bottle. Um, and it's a particular style of wine. They also do, by the way, another form of wine is an offspring of this wine. After they make the wine from the Amarone fruit, that blend and stuff, they've used it to make the wine. They'll take the skins and they'll add the skins to a tank of Valpolicella and do what's called a ripasso. Now, there's different ways to do it. You can actually pull the Valpolicella wine through those skins. Maybe they put it in like a tank or something. I've seen buckets of the skins just added to the Valpolicella wine because you got all this flavor development, this raisin, this richness, some sugars too, because Valpolicella is usually picked pretty young. It's fresh, it's light, it's lower in alcohol, and you do what's called a ripasso. You pass it back over the Amarone skins, and so you have now, the regular Valpolicella wine. You have on one extreme, you have another extreme with the Amarone, and then right in between is this ripasso of Valpolicella. And once in a while, I carry a ripasso on the website. I might even have one right now. Let me see. Let me see what I got. I don't know if that wine is still with me. Bucello. Let me see. I go to the website and I put in, let me go to the website. Merchant of Wine. Let's go Valpolicella. Yeah, I think I got this one here. There it is. I do have some. See how this one says Ripasso on it? Valpolicella Superior Ripasso. Another very good producer of Valpolicella. Um, and these wines, as opposed to an Amarone, which would probably be in the 20 to 30 range, this one touches into the 30s, goes towards 40. And so they're just something to be aware of. But I hope you really enjoyed the Amarone. It is a great wine to close on. You could take it from having, really beautiful stewed meat dish in this area. Often things like venison and game um, uh, are slowly cooked and used and need something big and strong and with a lot of character, and you carry it over into dessert, whether it's cheese, which this wine goes very well with cheese, very well with into the dessert category, but really is to be enjoyed with an entree. And uh, it's a famous wine that not a lot of people know a lot about, but Amarone carries some great history with it, and this is just a beautiful find. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sandra, you're making some noises there. Let me ask you to unmute. Are you taking off? You leaving me?
I'm leaving you, but this was such a beautiful night. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandra. Great.
Thank you. Good night. See you soon.
Bye, everybody. Amy, thank you so much. Wonderful to see you. Sutsuko, always great. My Lisa left. She said ciao. Thanks for a great overview of the Italian wines, new ones to try. Michael, you're there. Thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.